Nothing like this exists anywhere else in the world. We launched this in 2020, and up until today, we still can't see anything that is similar to this. And so we've had a lot of people from around the world take an interest in what it is that we are doing. And as a result, we've ended up partnering with people in different parts of Africa. So you can see the different countries represented there. It's not fully updated. We also have Ethiopia and a couple of others that are coming up where we've been able to partner with local representatives in different parts of the continent. They are hubs themselves and they replicate the model of bringing the village together in their countries. And so in all these different countries, we have different numbers of experts that represent the sandbox. And so if you're a business that also wants to do business across borders and find experts that can help you in those countries, you can find them through our network. We've not just stopped at Africa. We've also built partnerships in Europe, in UK, Germany, and in the US using a similar model. And so you'll find sandbox experts and leaders in these particular locations as well. And this is a testament. You can build a business from Africa and take it globally. I think we are living in a time when, like we always say, the world is flat and whatever opportunities we are able to access, whether it's through the internet or through building collaborations and partnerships across the world, you're able to do that from any part of the world today. And we shall not be looking to stop there. We are looking to go into Asia, into South America, and there are possible partners that we are having different discussions and looking for others in different parts. As you saw in the poster, I've also just authored a book called The Enterprise Jungle. This is a book that seeks to introduce the African voice onto what does it take to build a business, particularly in unpredictable environments. A lot that has been written and shared about management practice, about entrepreneurship, tends to come from the West. But I do believe that there are a lot of us here in Africa who have a lot of experience in building different things. I think there's a lot of people here who have probably not just worked in Kenya, but maybe across Africa. And some of you may even have been involved in global roles where your expertise is not just relevant in the Kenyan context, but is relevant across the world. And so I think it's important, and I encourage everyone who is within a business function to think about how can we start to document our own intellectual property, our own methodologies, our own way of doing things, and sharing that knowledge across the world so that we can help each other and even bring our own unique thoughts and ways of doing things to the rest of the world. So this book talks about how you can build a business from a startup to a large enterprise and even exit as an entrepreneur, and what is it that the organization needs to do through the different stages of growth and dealing with different issues around the world about the complexities that we have to deal with, which I'll be talking about right after this. We live in an extremely dynamic world, an extremely volatile world. Many years ago, you could come up with a strategy and carry it out for 5 years, and it would probably continue to be relevant. But today, you build a strategy for the next few years, and by the next year, things have changed so much internationally, whether it's introduction of technologies like artificial intelligence, whether it's introduction of, new ways of doing business. You find that the industry you're in, you start to be challenged by different forces. And if your business is not adaptable and, changing with the changing times, you find that you start to be left behind and you start to be uncompetitive in the markets that you are. Why would this be a big topic for HR professionals. We are the people who sit in the middle of shaping culture in our organizations. We are the people who sit in the middle of defining the kind of roles that we are going to bring on board into our organizations to stay competitive. We are the people who come up with policies on how to onboard, how to develop, how to manage, and how to grow the people that we bring into our organizations. And so these people are very key for keeping us adaptable. And so if we as HR professionals do not have that core business knowledge in terms of how our roles affect the competitiveness of the organization, you can find that we end up becoming part of the bottleneck where we are not bringing relevant conversations to the table in terms of how the business should evolve, how the people that we bring in and place in different parts of the organization should evolve, how the policies that we put in place should evolve. I know a lot of you are dealing with different types of policies that have to do with things like, should people work from home? Should people work remotely? Should people work from the office? What kind of policies do we put around how people work and collaborate with one another to be able to remain competitive? And we definitely have younger generations coming into the workspace that have a very different attitude, very different mentality from the older generations. How do we make sure that these generations coexist and create value together? And so that really makes, has our work cut out for us in terms of how do we bring value to the table and make our roles valuable to the CEO, to the C-suite, to the entire organization in terms of, as we have these strategic conversations, are we able to be the kind of people that move the organization forward? I'll be giving you a link where you can find this book. If you're in Nairobi or Kenya or abroad, you should be able to have access to it through my website or through the major bookshops that are there in town. You can be able to find that just to be able to read more about the details. But the topic today is just leading through complexity, and how do we as business leaders or organizations leaders lead through complexity? What are the things that we need to keep in mind and continuously grapple with that can help us keep our organizations competitive? So the first thing I'm going to talk about is that there is no business that does not operate in the macro environment that we have today. And like I mentioned earlier, the kind of macro issues that we're dealing with, first and foremost, is just the global geopolitics. We may be operating in Kenya or in Tanzania or in Zambia or, in West Africa. And today, the world is so integrated that a decision made in one part of the world ends up significantly affecting the conditions by which a business operates in a different part of the world. Let's take Kenya, for example, because I know many of us here from Kenya, as I can see, or maybe operating in Kenya. This year, at some point of the year, we had to go through the announcement that the US was going to attack Iran. They went ahead and did that, and then Iran went ahead and closed the Strait of Hormuz. And it turns out that this is a very important choke point for global logistics, the movement of oil, and how global value chains end up operating. While that decision was made in the US, and the action actually ended up happening in Iran and within the Middle East, it ended up shutting down. People who are based in the Middle East and who work back home, or businesses that are headquartered in these particular locations, ended up being significantly affected in terms of the movement of people. But even when you come back to Kenya, our local policies had to change. The price of oil ended up going high, and it is still at the same rate today. Because of those disruptions, the price of oil goes up by by effect, the price of all other goods has to go up because a lot of things are dependent on oil. So whether that's transportation and the like, and so finally you find that we are here in Kenya, and suddenly your employees are telling you they're paying more to come to the office by matatu or for fuel in their cars. And suddenly you're dealing with a compensation question back at home. Are you going to compensate people because they're dealing with inflation? They're paying more for the goods that they're buying from supermarkets and everything because of a decision that was made somewhere else. Locally, our country has been dealing with a whole debt situation, and so they have to increase taxes so that they collect more money, and that leads to local policy decisions that are being made by our leaders that also end up affecting different things. If you look at the last 3 to 4 years, there have been announcements made during every finance bill that have to do with now, you have to deduct the housing levy. Um, the NHIF structure has ended up changing, and you have to make some decisions about what is going to go towards the traditional, pension discussion. Sorry, I'm even talking about NHIF like it still exists. The SHA thing is forcing some adjustments in how we are compensating our people. So we have the affordable housing levy, we have SHA changing its structure, we have the NSSF changing its structure, and suddenly you find that you're dealing with the discussions internally of, are we going to absorb those costs or are we going to pass them on to our employees? And how does that affect how we are managing people? How does it affect morale? How does it affect the different things that we need to do? And suddenly the organization has to quickly adapt around these kind of things. At the end of the day, it might mean that we are changing the pricing of the products and services that we're selling to be able to remain competitive. Some people may have to restructure how their businesses are operating to remain competitive because there's these kinds of pressures that are happening. So how much are we in touch with the geopolitical things happening globally? How much are we in touch with what is happening locally? And then there's issues to do with the economy. The tax structure is always changing. The government has to invest in infrastructure, and it's changing how it's taxing our people locally. There are always tax announcements that are happening every year that may force organizations to go back and look at how they are putting their cost structures in place so that they are able to continue meeting their obligations. If your business is in the international trade space, again, there's a lot of things happening there. So as business professionals, are we in touch with what is happening in the legislative agendas that is coming to affect our businesses? Are we in touch with what is happening as far as our local politics is concerned? Next year is an election year. What happens every election year? The economy slows down, people withhold decisions, and we have to make some changes in our business. So are we already thinking about how we are going to prepare for next year in case the economy slows down? Do we have scenarios that we have built as business professionals in terms of what we are likely to be dealing with next year that may cause some changes in our business, may cause a slowdown? Are we strategizing on how we can continue to do international business so that our businesses are not just subject to the pressures that are there within Kenya? All these strategic issues are things that as business leaders, we have to be thinking about and making decisions. But also when it comes to the micro issues within our business, there is competition. And competition is also adapting and changing just as quickly as the macro issues are changing. Sometimes you have technological disruption that is coming about that is changing the business models of how many businesses are operating. And we have to be cognizant of what these micro issues that are affecting our businesses internally also are. So also as business leaders, are we keeping in touch with that which is happening in our businesses? Are we able to understand during this year, we have had very many things change as far as artificial intelligence is concerned? What are the policies about artificial intelligence used within our businesses? Are we using platforms that protect our data? Are we using platforms that allow our employees to be more productive? But we are not leaking our company secrets to the models that we are exposing ourselves to. What is acceptable in terms of employees generating output using artificial intelligence and passing this on to clients? We've seen some lawsuits internationally where people ended up using the wrong type of information from AI, whether it's in the legal space to argue cases or presenting wrong facts because nobody double checked what the AI was developing, and therefore, falsehood ended up being peddled. So again, are we on top of what these technologies are doing for our businesses? And when we look at the whole question of then what do our businesses do to be able to survive all these rapid changes and the dynamic world that we're dealing with? How do you build a business or an organization that is sustainable over time? How do you build an organization that is able to, um, you know, withstand the challenges that we are dealing with? And so I'd talk about what kind of organization are you running? Are you clear on what the mission and vision of your organization is? And if I could add, is there a set of values that philosophically addresses what your organization is all about? Do your employees know where this organization is headed? Do they know what they are working towards? Or are they just waking up every day to work on operational tasks but have no idea about where the organization is strategically going and what the organization actually exists to do? Have you sat down to define what makes your organization competitive? What is the difference or the value proposition that your organization brings into this operating environment? Or are you simply operating in an environment where it's very competitive, you're just getting pressure on pricing and not understanding that this pressure is because there are too many people who've entered this particular space, and now if we don't differentiate ourselves, if we don't differentiate the products and services that we are putting out, we end up being in a space that our business or organization begins to die because we are not able to keep up with the competitive pressures. You have younger, more digitally savvy, more technologically savvy competitors coming on board. You have people who are, adopting the latest technology in how it is that they're delivering their business and they're competing with you. You have people who are adopting, new business models based on the technology that's coming out. Maybe they are operating on a more decentralized model. They're operating on a more global model. They are operating on a more digital way of serving customers and allowing them to serve themselves through a portal, through an app, through these kinds of things. Yet we as an organization are still operating the way we've operated the last 20 years without thinking about how do we innovate, how do we renew ourselves, how do we position ourselves to be competitive for the future. And like I keep saying, we as the HR community are the ones who sit in the middle of bringing people and fostering this kind of conversations to happen within our organizations. Are we bringing on board the skill sets that are necessary to keep up with these changes in technology? Are we upgrading the people that we have on board? Do we have a program within our organizations, for example, today to make sure that people are exposed to the do's and don'ts of using artificial intelligence platforms, whether it's Cloud or Gemini or, Chat GPT or these kind of things? What are the policies that we are bringing on board? Are we equipping people? Because your organization secrets can leak out and become part of, training the models out there. Are we adopting models that shield our organizational IP or our organizational secrets threats? Are we adopting policies internally that ensure that our competitiveness is kept up to date? Are we educating ourselves as the HR profession on what tools are there or how these tools can help us, whether it's generate information or research data or analyze data from our organizations that get us knowing exactly what is going on in the organization? Are we working with the technology departments to plug all the different tools that we are using internally to make sure that we have, a central view of the critical data that is flowing through our organizations? So there's usually a saying out there that instead of just sailing the safe waters, how about building a boat or building a ship that can withstand any kind of storm that may come when we are out there sailing? And I would liken that to the organizations that we are running. Instead of playing it safe, instead of being overwhelmed by the changes that are happening, how can we build an organization internally that keeps in touch with all these things that we are talking about? How do we foster organizational conversations strategically that look into what is changing in our environment? What should keep us competitive? Are there underserved markets that we are dealing with in our organizations? Are there things that as an organization we should be critically thinking about to position our business for the future and ensure that we are remaining competitive? And as the custodians of culture, as the custodians of the people that we are bringing in, as the custodians of learning and development within the organization, are we ascribing to programs that are allowing us to stay ahead of the curve and understand these changes that are happening? Are we fostering conversations internally? Are we maybe bringing in speakers or experts or professionals or consultants that can help us break apart these things that are happening and see how relevant are they for our organizations? What are the things we need to look in our organizations and change that will allow us to remain competitive and keep us growing within the industries that we are in? And if we are the custodians of culture, how are we ensuring that we are bringing in and keeping the good people within the organization? Are we bringing in people whose values are aligned to how our organization operates? How do we, um, how do we how are we able to identify within our recruitment processes, within our internal organizational processes, people that are adaptable, people that catch on to new things quite quickly and they're able to integrate it into how they work? How are we able to create mechanisms that allow us to promote and put people in leadership who have these attitudes and values that are aligned to where it is that our organization wants to go to? How are we building a culture internally that allows our people to be engaged? Are we able to do those engagement surveys every once in a while to understand, are there things we are doing as an organization that are disengaging people? Are there things that we could adopt in terms of new ways of working, maybe hybrid ways of working, maybe flexi time, maybe, different modern ways of keeping people motivated and engaged, recognition of, people who are doing a good job or who are aligned to the kind of behaviors that the organization would like to promote? How are we building programs internally that allow us to have discussions around this alignment, that allow us to have conversations around this adaptability, that allow us to have conversations about things that need to change? Have we built a culture that allows people to talk about what's not working in the organization, what is going wrong? Do we have channels of feedback or communication that can allow us to catch on quickly into what it is that is happening on the ground that may be going wrong, so that we are able to catch things quickly before they go too far and address them from a policy point of view in the headquarters? And so have we been able to build that open culture where people can can give feedback and say, this thing that the organization is doing is not working for us on the ground or out in the field. Maybe we've adapted a new system, but it needs to be tweaked so that it can work better for people on the ground. So do we have these feedback channels that can allow us to get feedback, that maybe we have certain team members or leaders in the organization in certain business units that are not really operating according to the values of the organization, or who are suppressing, an open and free culture from thriving within the organization. Maybe they're curtailing the progress of your good people, and you end up losing those people to competitors and this kind of thing. So what are those things that we are doing as HR professionals that foster a culture that can allow for the bad news, especially, to get to the top quickly, that allows people to be able to experiment, to innovate, to try things out without feeling that there's going to be repercussions for testing out these new things. How do we build a culture of innovating things on a small scale? You might have people in your front office or your frontline workers figuring out a different way that things can be done. Do you have a way in the organization that you can adopt these good ideas and test them on a small scale and see if you come up with a better way of doing something? And then how do you adopt that across the organization? Do you reward people for the innovative thinking? Do you reward people for the candid feedback? Do you reward people for adopting the kind of cultures that can just help our organizations stay ahead of doing things that keep us competitive, that keep us adapting to the changes that are happening on a global scale, on a technological scale, and also locally, just in terms of the things that are happening? And how do we also have programs internally that give us early warning signals of things that could be happening? One of the things that may be culturally sensitive locally is that in every election period, you find people may tend to become tribally aligned within the organization. What kind of policies do we put in place to ensure that there is no divisions that start coming to our people as they're working together out in the field because of political leanings? Are these discussions that can be held internally, or are they completely banned from the organization? And so we have a lot to think about as organizations in terms of the things that we can do to remain agile, to remain adaptable, to remain open to new ideas and things that are coming up, and to test these things on a small scale internally that also allow us to stay competitive. One of the things I talk about in my book is that economies are not static. Sometimes what worked for an organization 10 years ago and made you competitive and the top of the market may not continue to work for too long, and you might have to think about what is that's coming next. Yes, we came up with this amazing new product or service, and it has served us well for a period of time, but many people have copied us. Many people have started to build something better than what it is that we were building. How do we build for the next phase of growth of our business? How do we innovate those new products and services? How do we adopt new technology or new business models that can allow our organizations to remain fresh and young? Sometimes you find that your organization was built very well to serve Generation X in terms of customers, but now we have Gen Y, we have millennials, we have Gen Xers, and we have Gen Alphas that will be coming into the workplace quite soon, who have a very different way of operating and very different mindsets. And even as they come into the workplace, they are also consumers, and they are the majority. Knowing that the average age in the country is 19, if you're like me, who's post 45, you know that we are now in the minority of the population of the country. And that means that if your business is not structured in a way that it is tapping into these new consumers, into this new workforce, then you're basically a dying business. You're basically on your way out. It may not be apparent right now because you've built market share over time, but if you do not begin to renew yourself towards these new demographics or change your organization to adapt to these new customers, you might find that you start to become irrelevant quite quickly. quickly in the environment. And so does that mean that you have programs, management trainee programs that bring in the young people, feed them into the organization, and allow their way of thinking to feed into how the organization is strategizing to tap into their demographics or the consuming styles of their age mates and these kind of things? How do we bring these conversations on board? We've been having an interesting conversation in my own organization. Are we going to go onto TikTok as an organization or not? Because you have a whole brand of consumers there who want to consume things in a trend or this, that, and the other. How do you convince the management of this particular company to come on board with this new style of marketing towards this new generation? Or do you just say, we don't understand that platform, so we are going to stay away? Or do you get somebody who understands how that platform works and you integrate your marketing towards that particular group? So, as I say, as business people, there's never time for sleeping and folding our hands and thinking that we have it all together because we are the market leader today. Nowadays, companies collapse very quickly because of disruptions or because of changes in technology. And if we are not adaptable enough to change as quickly as the changes that are happening, you find that we start to become irrelevant. We start to struggle to remain profitable. There are certain industries that have been hit by such different changes, like the media industry was hit by, the introduction of social media, and people stopped consuming all their content just from the radio and TV and started to consume content on YouTube and other platforms like Netflix and these kind of things. So how do you adapt to these changes and keep yourself relevant despite the changes to make sure that you're staying ahead of the curve? And so as the people here, we need to be cognizant of the things that are happening, but we also need to be the people actively thinking about what are these policies, structures, processes, and systems that we're going to put in place to make sure that we are always attracting the best people aligned to how our organization operates, that we will attract even the people who come with the new ways of thinking and get their new ways of thinking and embrace them within the organization and keep ourselves renewed as an organization. So build cultures that encourage open conversations around the future, deliberate and build ownership and try and keep people engaged in conversations around how do we adapt the new tools, how do we adapt ourselves to the changes that are happening, how do we build programs internally that enable us to stay relevant with our customers despite the changing dynamics that are happening outside us and that help us to stay competitive. Okay. There are many things that go into ourselves as leaders. If you're in any HR position, you're a leader in your organization, even if you may be in an officer position. Are you also very self-aware of your capabilities, what you're in touch with, what you can do and what you cannot do? Are you able to identify gaps in your understanding of these business dynamics that are changing? Have you kept yourself in touch with what is changing in your industry, what dynamics are being introduced? So this could be through industry publications or being a member of your industry, body and the thought leadership that comes out there. Are you as an individual very self-aware of the gaps that you may have, and what are you doing about closing those gaps? Like we talked about the whole artificial intelligence thing. Have you as a HR professional, tried out these tools? Have you taken courses online to just try and understand what's the range of tools that are out there? What are they introducing into how we operate our business? What changes are they bringing about? What are the risks of working with these tools? What are the benefits of working with these tools? What are the guardrails we should put as we generate policies internally in terms of how our people can use these tools or not use them? And so we cannot be champions of change in anything that we ourselves are not embracing. And so if we are being left behind as the HR professionals, you can be sure that we will not think of programs that can also keep our teams and our leaders in our organizations ahead of a curve. So we should be the ones at the forefront of proposing what are those programs that can help us stay competitive, stay updated in our knowledge, and stay ahead of the competition in the things that we need to do. Sometimes you need to make the tough decisions as a leader. It could be that you're introducing something new that's not very popular, but you know that it is extremely necessary to keep your organization going. How do you push through such propositions to ensure that there is adoption across the board? Maybe you're automating something that used to be very manual in the organization, but you have resistance because people on the ground know that once it's automated, there'll be higher accountability, and they are resisting that. How do you make the tough decisions around that? How do you work around, delegating and letting go of things that other people should be doing around you and empowering people that are coming after you? How do you build more responsibility in the people that you're working with so that you're always having people in the organization growing and building their capabilities so that you have a succession pipeline internally? Are you the kind of person who, when you know you have gaps, you're open to seeking help and seeking accountability into implementing the things that need to be implemented as a leader in the organization as you navigate, the challenges that we've mentioned, and also as you navigate managing the people that are in line with what it is that you're doing as an organization? And so I know I've talked about a lot of things, and there are a lot of things that we could discuss. I want to open it up to questions and answers based on what it is that I've talked about today, so that I can give an opportunity for us to engage a little bit more. But that is what I had prepared for you today. Okay, and if you're going to be looking for me online, I think I'd shared my handle at Joram Winamo, LinkedIn, and all the other different platforms. I usually share different tips every other day about business or entrepreneurship. So feel free to follow me and for us to connect on different platforms. And if you're looking for the book, you could either buy it online if you're on Amazon, and you could also find me and find the book in different bookshops just across Nairobi, or you could order online and we can have it delivered to you if you're in Nairobi or within Kenya. So let me stop there and hand back to our moderator, Milka.
Thank you so much, Joram, for the insightful presentation. I believe, members, we have learned a lot, and we will effect whatever we have learned today, the presentations that Joram has shared with us. Thank you so much. I'm looking at the chat box. I'm not seeing any questions, but before I forget, members, as I said, there's a link that you're required to fill. There's a link for your name and member number. So kindly, if you can fill in the link instead of writing your name and member number on the chat box. Do we have any questions on the chat box? Or if you want to ask your questions, you can raise your hand. You get unmuted, then you speak up. But I can see members are happy, the clubs, they're so happy. I hope you shall get today's presentations for our reference. You're also supposed to write, Lynette. You should also supposed to write.
But don't worry, I am happy. I am happy to share the presentation, not to worry.
Happy to share. But
Yes,
I'm also happy that your presentation was so clear, short and clear. So if you are able to make some notes. I'm sure you have at least gathered some information. So I'm looking at the questions. I'm not seeing any question. That
I can
means
see some
members, you
questions.
can see, I'm trying to
Yes,
scroll.
there's a question here. Are there specific AI tools you would recommend
Okay,
for HR practitioners?
okay,
So, what I would say is artificial intelligence, where we are with, and I can see there's a hand up, so we'll come to you, Scholar. Where artificial intelligence is today is where the internet was in the year 2000. It is the beginning. There's going to be a lot of noise. There'll be a lot of proliferation of many tools, and then many of these are going to disappear, and we will have a few that will probably remain and stand the test of time. Um, the biggest ones, if your organization is on the Google environment, it is the use of Gemini. It's called Gemini or Gemini, whichever you choose to talk about. So that is already embedded within the Google suite, if that's what you use as an organization. The ones who are on the Microsoft ecosystem, Microsoft has its own internal AI. Not very highly rated, but it works. You can have Cloud Code and those kinds of things. Cloud is the one that is being adopted by a lot of people, but you probably have to pay subscriptions. It can help with coding. It can help with working, Cloud Cowork. It can help with, so that's the one from Anthropic. And then the most popular one used by a lot of individuals for free is ChatGPT. And so those are the four main tools at the top. There's many others now when it comes to things like developing websites and apps. There's things like Replit and Vercel, and I mean, I could go on and on and on. There are so many tools there. When it comes to communication, things like Canva have their own artificial intelligence tools inside that can generate content. I think almost every technological tool today tries to embed artificial intelligence. So one, it depends on the tools that your organization is using. But what I would say is that because this is a technology, the same way we had to learn about how the internet works and how to surf and search on Google and these kind of things, we need to upgrade our skills. So I've seen advertisements on things like Courseive, where there are courses that can help you learn about all the different tools and what may be relevant for you wherever it is that you are. Some are paid courses, some are free courses online, but we just have to figure out a way of being on top of things. I've seen another question on please talk more about policies that could be put in place to manage remote work hybrid schedule to ensure maximum productivity, especially in a consulting firm. This is a complicated one. I come from the consulting background. And consulting firms were one of the first organizations to kill remote work and bring people back to the office because they have been saying it has been difficult to build culture. But I've seen a lot of organizations have now settled on some kind of hybrid where they allow for people to work from home when they need to do focused work, and other organizations insist on certain days when people must be at the workplace. Some people are back to 100% in office. Some organizations, especially technologically ones, have been able to figure out 100% remote work, and they even work with people from around the world. I would say this particularly depends on the nature of the kind of business that you run. There are some businesses that require people to be there physically, whether they're like retail organizations or manufacturing or these kinds of things. And so you have to come up with policies that are fair to everyone because there are policies that favor some people working from home, but others have to be on site. And so it's something that you have to grapple with internally. But I've seen that for the newer generations, they really value the flexibility, they value output-based work, and our organizations may not be, they may not be, can I say, adapting quickly enough to some of these new ways of working. In my own organization, we have a very interesting flexi policy. We don't necessarily police people on coming in and going out, but we try and pay attention to the kind of people that we recruit to make sure that they are proactive, they are self-driven, they are passionate, they are aligned to our values, and we find that we have to do a lot less policing when we get the right people into office. And more often than not, you find people going beyond the call of duty to get their work done because they are passionate and aligned to what it is that we do. But we are also a very unique type of organizations. I've talked about how my organization operates in a couple of spaces, and people are quite shocked. So, for example, I'm the kind of boss who discusses people's side hustles with them, because a lot of people who come into our organization are very entrepreneurial. And here's the thing, we know they are doing it anyway, so why hide it? As long as it does not affect your productivity at the office, you're doing it in your free time, feel free, to do it. And we actually encourage it because we think people who are very entrepreneurial can end up doing a very good job in being very self-driven. A lot of people would disagree with that, but it's one of the controversial things that, for example, we have adopted internally that seems to be working for us. So I would say design your culture and your organization based on what makes sense for the kind of people that you bring in and the culture that you're trying to foster within the organization in terms of how people work. And your engagement surveys should be able to give you feedback on which policies are working well and which ones need to be redone. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Joram. I can see there are several comments on the chat box. Participants are happy with your presentations. Indeed, it was short and clear. You did not bump us with so many slides. It was short and clear. Thank you so much. I also appreciate the presentation that you have shared with us. So there are quite a number of people appreciating you, and allow me to read one. Thank you, HRM, for the great efforts. Yes, thank you so much, Shabira David. We have quite a number of appreciation from members.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, well. And they want you to come back again, so we should arrange for another
There are a couple of people who have their hands up. Should we allow those questions?
Yes, they can be allowed to speak.
Scholar and Mudhamia. Scholar Mudhamia and Consulate.
Them to speak kindly. You can unmute them one by one kindly. Though we're about to close, because you're supposed to close at 3, we can go up to 3:20. Yeah, who's going fast?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me?
We can hear you, but there's an echo. I think maybe you have 2 gadgets. You need to put one on mute or something.
All right. Sorry, my name is Kola. I don't know what is an echo. I've put my other...
Okay. But we can hear you. So you can just proceed.
Joram, thank you so much. You've answered a lot of my question, which I had with the last explanation you've given about flexi working system and remote working, because I tend to feel the older generation who are now in human resource department, heading human resource department, they are Gen Y or the older generation.
Yes.
And a part of the millennial might also not be so much into the technology.
Yes.
Unlike where we see the Gen Z, they're purely into the tech world. And I see like a lot of blockage when it comes to the Gen X, the older generation, accommodating the millennials and Gen Z, in the workstations.
Yes.
Because the Gen Zs, they know what they want. They will know they can execute while working from home. And I see a lot of wasted hours when people are stuck in traffic going to work, you waste 2 hours or so. Then you go to the office, 10 a.m. it's tea break. 12 that is lunch break. Before you realize 3:30, you're planning to go back home. So the real story is there are a lot of wasted hours. There are a lot of wasted office hours. And I tend to feel based on what career somebody is in or what which industry somebody is in, we need to instill this culture of adapting to the technology and allowing a lot of staff to work from home. So long as policies are there to see output is achieved by organizations. Because honestly, I see a lot of office hours lost in traffic and also in office chats and stuff. So the older human resource professionals, they need to embrace the technology which is at hand with us so that we can create more output and also we can have more time to have mental wellness as we execute work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. So I think maybe this is a topic for IHRM to open up more in future webinars, workshops, and also conferences. I think it's something that requires a lot of debate and sometimes experimentation, and then people sharing what works and what doesn't work, because this was kind of thrown up on us during COVID, and there weren't many research studies that say what works for what industry, what doesn't work for what industry. From where I sit, I've seen like tech firms where people are doing development are able to do remote work very effectively and even work with people from around the world. But some of the companies, like service companies that require in-person and the like, may struggle with the whole cultural aspect, but they could introduce some maybe hybrid, maybe one day work from home in a week type of policies, and it ends up working very well. So I think there is still research going on, and there may be better experts from the HR world that may be able to actually zoom in onto what works and what doesn't work. But I just feel like this is a topic that needs a lot more debate and conversation within the HR fraternity to share best practices of what works. I partner with a certain organization that shuts down the entire office for 2 weeks once a year, and everyone goes home. And they call it an institutional break. And their clients and everybody knows they are not at work for these 2 weeks. And they say it's the only way that, it enables people to recharge, take a break, and then they come back. And it seems to be working for them. So I'd say there's a lot of experiments happening around the world of HR today. And it would be great to just hear a lot of case studies from that. But also, as you say, sometimes the resistance is because of how we've always done things, but you could experiment with things on a small scale, and maybe after a period of time, you review and adjust according to what works. Because I've also seen certain organizations, they allow remote work, but now employees spend their entire time on side hustles and they don't do any company work. And there's a difficult way of measuring whether they are actually working or not. So definitely a very robust conversation that should be had within the IHRM.
Thank you, Joram, for that. We've got several concerns, questions. We might not finish them now. Actually, some they really want us to continue.
I can see people don't want to finish.
Yeah, they don't want us to finish. So I can imagine. So there's one, if I don't read this is from one of our council members, HRM council member. He's asking whether you offer mentorship for young or aspiring consultants, if you can respond to that.
Yes, I do, but I have very limited time as well being a CEO. So I'm able to organize sessions once in a while. If there's a way we could get in touch, I could try and see if we could have some time for a session soon. But yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. There's one question. There's an admin. He or she calling himself admin. I don't know whether he can unmute to talk because there's a question that has been asking, but is not coming out so clear. But I can read. Say something about micro issue that is economic issue.
Yes,
How does it affect?
I think I get what he's asking. It's in terms of what are these macro issues. So macro issues tend to be what's happening in the political sphere.
Kindly unmute. Mute, sorry.
Okay, mute so that I can finish. So macro issues is what's generally happening in the economy, or in the political landscape, or in the technological landscape. Some of you who may have been involved in strategic planning sessions is something we call PESTLE, PESTLE. So political, economic, social, technological, legislative, and I think environmental. There are trends that happen in the external environment in line with this PESTLE framework, where you have political trends that are happening, like today, what's happening in Kenya, this whole, Ruto, Sifuna, and, Gachagua thing. Is that something that is likely to affect your business, either from a cultural standpoint, or are they likely to do something within government that ends up affecting how the economy is running? Economical issues are issues like inflation, things like the policies that the central bank comes up with, or treasury. There are different things they do to try and contain inflation, stabilize the economy, pay debt, and those things end up having a direct effect. The reason why we have a lot of taxation today is because we are repaying debt. And so you find that KRA now is becoming a lot more intent on collection, and you've seen them closing the gaps on collection because of that pressure to repay debt. So are you in touch with what's happening and what's likely to happen down the line? Should a new president come in next year, are they going to change those policies and drop the housing levy and, change some of the taxation policies that are there to be more popular? So you find that all these things that are always happening. If it's social, it is these trends of you have younger people, the demographics are growing younger. But in the West, it is that you have more older people than you have younger people, and it affects, paying of taxes in those economies and stuff. And so as business people, we are definitely supposed to once in a while step back from the operational, and it means reading newspapers, it means reading magazines like The Economist, or these kinds of things. It means being subscribed to certain blogs or websites where people put out commentary about these issues, and it helps you keep track of the changes that may be happening in your environment and things that your organization needs to adapt to. So that's what I mean by macro issues. And then micro issues are things that happen within your organization that you need to keep in touch with, in the different departments, in the different business units, and the different things that are happening within your organization. There's someone who has an interesting question, saying 2 hours would have done justice, quite insightful. Speak on or guide HR practitioners that feedback isn't mushene. In some spaces, you find HR is at the center of the drama. I agree. If a HR department is not very professional, they can be the ones fueling the discord internally, and maybe not being professional about being discreet around the feedback that's coming back to the organization, or handling sensitive issues in a professional way. And so knowing how to, handle issues like sexual harassment or policies around, workplace dynamics and these kinds of things, I think it's very important for HRs to be on top of professional ways of dealing with investigations, dealing with, things that are happening at the office. Sometimes organizations have policies around relationships and these kinds of things. How can we ensure that we maintain our professionality around this? Sometimes you have an organization where people are using their power to bully staff to, drive the results, but in a very autocratic manner that leaves people burnt out and not very motivated. How do we have systems that give an early warning to the management that these things are happening within the organization before it's too late? I'm sure you all know it's said that people don't leave organizations organizations, they leave managers. So how do you also ensure? I've had some organizations have some kind of surveys or skip level meetings that allow people to give feedback to the boss of the boss or something like that, so that there is an opportunity to find out what's happening in the organization. There are some leaders who have a style of spending time on the shop front or on the floor to understand and get real feedback on what's happening in the organization. So it's about tools, maybe anonymous feedback that can be given, that can give early warning, of course, with proof, so that people are not just victimized for the sake of it. How do you curtail politics, where people are either taking credit for other people's work or these kinds of, all these things that happen within organizations. There are tools or systems that can be used to gather this information safely, discreetly, and then handle it professionally from a policy standpoint. And also you find that, employees also react to when things are not addressed internally. There's a lot of demotivation can creep in and affect how the organization is working. So a lot of things to think about there. I cannot go into a lot of detail about it. Also, please bear, despite the fact that I've worked in leadership development and strategy consulting and the like, I'm not a HR professional. I have been running organizations, and of course I'm in touch with a lot of what happens in HR, but I wanted to bring a lot more of the business context, because as HRs, we are subject to, a CEO who has business objectives to meet, and the more we can integrate how our HR policies and cultural policies drive the business results of the organization and the environment people are working in, then we end up being a very invaluable part of shaping the organizations. And when the leaders, the CEO, the CFO do see that we are doing things as HRs that are driving the bottom line of organization, we are hiring amazing people who are coming and driving the organization forward. We are proposing initiatives that help the organization adapt to how the organization is changing. Then you find HR becomes a central conversation in the business conversation that is happening in the organization.
Thank you, Joram. Members, you've heard. I hope you have taken notes. Time might not allow us to continue, because it's now 3:25. Joram is a CEO. He must be having other engagements. So we'll organize for another meeting, for another webinar with Joram. You can propose topics, members. The topics that we'd like Joram to cover next time, now that we have had him. So just indicate on the chat box the topics you'd like him. Of course, we'll have to engage him in our next, in future. We'll not let him go like that. He has done a good job.
Thank you.
I love the way his presentation is clear, very clear. So we'll have to end it here. Let's appreciate Joram for even responding to our questions, for his time, being a CEO. 1.5 hours, yes, for CEO like him to present. And no, we are not paying him. It's free of charge. So he's giving back to the Institute, to our members. So we really appreciate you, Joram, for your presentation and for your time. As you can see, members are really happy. They're appreciating you. Members, you're also happy for your time. So we have to end it here. Joram, maybe your closing remarks, or it's called what? That one.
Yeah, parting shot. Thank you so much.
That's the time I was looking for, the parting shot.
Yes. Thank you so much, and thank you for your encouraging feedback. Thank you for being attentive and also being on board. I will share the presentation with IHRM to share with all of you. Let's connect on the social spaces. All I'd say is I am one of the CEOs who believes HR is very central. I have an amazing HR at Sandbox. We have about 100 staff countrywide, and she's been very good at proposing programs and things that drive the kind of quality of people that we bring on board, always gauging our engagement and, getting early warning of issues from the ground through anonymous surveys and the like. And we are able to address them in the town hall meetings of our businesses, of our business. And so I think HR can really be the central driver of bringing the engine that keeps the organization forward. And we as HR ourselves can also be the people who stay on top of what are these AI tools, what are these programs that we can adopt internally, and be the ones to introduce them and change the minds of even the Gen Xers and millennials to allow for the experiments and tweaks that would happen in our cultures to drive our businesses forward. So I see the crucial role, and keep up the good job that you're doing in the country as HRs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joram. Thank you so much for your valuable insights. Thank you, members, everyone, for participating. We look forward to meeting you on 1st August at the Public Service Ground to close the HR month in style. Kindly come. You are all invited, whether you're in Mombasa, Kisumu, you are invited. Please come join us on 1st of August. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining. Until next time. And as I mentioned earlier, if you have not registered on the link that was shared, kindly do register name and membership number for the CPD points. And also a kind reminder, if you have not renewed your membership, kindly do. We are in the month of July. December is almost. You're supposed to renew your membership in January. So kindly do renew your membership as soon as you can for you to be active. And also I wanted to differentiate between being active and in good standing. I know quite a number of you have paid their membership, but the status still reads not in good standing. That is because of the 10 CPD points. You are supposed to attain 10 CPD points in 2025 for you to be in good standing in 2026. The same will appear in 2027. If you have not attained the 10 CPD points, your membership status will remain not in good standing. So you are encouraged to attend such webinars like these ones we have offered. And this is the third one free of charge. Check with your branches, the activities across the country. The branches do offer events, the trainings. Kindly attend such. We have accredited HR firms to offer CPD points. HRM also has events that offer CPD points. So please be in good standing by attaining the 10 CPD points. So thank you so much, Joram. Thank you so much, members. And that marks the end of our presentation today. Have a lovely afternoon. See you next time. Bye for now. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.